I would like to, hopefully those who are not here will listen to this recording, because this is a very important one, marketing basics. This is a two-parter. I would like to ask also if we might have a short Zoom on Thursday afternoon to discuss the hotel and who's doing what. And I want to bring you up to date on everything because I know people want to make the reservations. So, but we don't have time to go into that today. So I'm hopeful that we can set something up for Thursday. Would that be possible with you guys who are here?
Yeah, for me, so far, plus I have to work.
What
right.
time were you thinking, Karen?
In the afternoon sometime.
Okay.
That's open.
And will it take long? How
I
long
think
will
no
it take?
more than a half an hour tops.
Okay.
Yeah,
I am busy from 3 o'clock on that day.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just do it at 1:30 to 2. All right. How's that sound? Sally, where's your face? I saw you for like 1 minute, not even.
Karen, you're saying 1:30 to 2 Arizona time.
1:30 to 2 Pacific time, correct.
There we go. Hi, Sally.
Hey, Sally. Hey,
Hi.
Kristen. All right. We're going to begin because there's a lot to cover. And I don't know whether any of you had the opportunity to read what was posted on the cafe yesterday on marketing basics, but that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the first thing I want to do is ask you all a question. What does marketing mean to you? And does this sound scary?
yes and yes. So
Well,
I-
what does it mean to you?
So for me, I've been working on trying to build a website and just trying to get the right message out there so that it resonates with the person reading it and it's not about me, and that's harder than I thought it would be. And then just getting business cards made and, I'm not to the stage where I think I need pins and things.
No, you're not. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about that today.
I want to go out and do some speaking, and I want my website and I want my LinkedIn page and all of those things.
Okay, so what do the rest of you, what does marketing mean to you?
The guy's already gone? Yeah. It's how you present yourself to the
How to
your
reach
client.
a group of people.
All right, how to reach a group of people? Anybody else? What does marketing mean to you? Does this sound like a scary topic?
You're marketing yourself.
Yeah, you're marketing yourself, but what does that mean?
It means
Message out there.
getting yourself out there, standing out above the crowd, marketing your service.
Okay,
Well, I
Yes.
think marketing also encompasses finding the right patients and finding, where are the type of patients that you're looking for? Where are those people? Where do they shop? What do they look at? Where do they go? That kind of stuff. So that's kind of the art of it, right?
did you read this material already?
Not yet, not yet.
We're going to cover all that today, absolutely. Now, Stacy, you had something to say.
Oh, I was just going to say it's how you present yourself and your product to the people that you want to take part of your business.
Okay. I wanted to go over with you, there are 3 goals for this program today and for the next one, which is creating your marketing plan, which should be real interesting. So what are the 3 main goals? So I'm going to read them to you. To facilitate you in the critical transition from an employee to independent practice. That is a big leap. And we're here to make certain that you have all the tools that you need to make that successfully. The second thing is you need to recognize that you are your own best marketing tool. Who mentioned something about, Kathy, you said, I don't need pens and pads and all that nonsense. Yeah, you don't. Not now. Ask me how I know how many thousands of dollars I spent in the very beginning, because I thought that was the way to go. Haha, it's not. And to empower you by discussing many, many elements of it, how to best market yourself. All right, so that's the goal. That's what we're moving on today. And I hope more people show up. 4, 5, 6. We're missing 8. Could you send me?
I know there's one person who's traveling today, Suzanne or something is traveling.
Okay, Suzanne is traveling.
Yeah,
All right.
and Robin, she doesn't usually come,
Yeah, Robin's probably working.
but she.
So there's 6.
there's just 6.
Yeah. Okay. Understanding what works and why. I have a question for you. Hold on, where's my question list? Hello? Oh, here it is. I want to ask a question. Which is a more effective approach to marketing for you? Sending a message, somehow conveying everything that you as a wonderful RNPA can do, or sending a strong emotional message to connect with people about their areas of need. Which do you think works better?
Emotional.
Emotional, why?
You tug at the heartstrings. That's where
Okay.
people, that's where you draw them in.
Okay, let's talk about national companies. Do they do this? Let's think about the drug companies. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
butterflies, right? And the butterflies in tramping across a field full of flowers. Yeah. Do you remember we have talked a bit about how you, if somebody comes up to you and says, what is an RNPA and what do you do? Do you remember we talked about that? What did we all determine would be the best way to do that? Somebody.
Or if they've ever had a health issue that they felt like they needed somebody to help them with.
And then what happens? And
then
it
you let them-
happens 99.9 times.
Then you let them tell their story to you, with just listening.
Yes.
intently.
And what do you do while they're telling their story to you and you are actively listening?
Don't say anything, just nod and listen intently.
Cues, listening cues.
Well, there's another little doodah that you can throw in here.
Repeat some phrases that they said to kind of summarize as they go along.
Repetition is very helpful. How about this? Well, somebody else try and then I'll tell you what I think. All right, you come up to me in the street and you say, you are what? An RN patient advocate? What do you do anyway? And I say to you, well, we do a lot of things, but before I do that, I wanted to ask you an important question. Well, what is it? Have you or anyone in your family or your neighbors had a difficult time going through the healthcare system as it is today? 99.9% of the time, yes, they did. And hold on, somebody else is coming. So you say, obviously, tell me about it. And they start to talk. Maybe, I don't know, after a minute or two of their talking, you could say, wait a minute, I've got an idea. And you begin to relate by interacting with them on an emotional level with accurate information, how you might have been able to address the problem that they had. And you don't make it lengthy. You don't go into a big hoo-ha. You listen, you interject a little bit about how you could help, and then say, tell me more about what happened. And this way, you are marketing by giving them information in a meaningful way. absolutely related to what their need is. If you can nail down their need, then you can demonstrate how you can be helpful. Shauna. Did you have something to add? Please do. Shauna, Nan, jump in.
No, you're saying everything that, you know, when you think about it, it's because you get asked this a lot. Even your own family starts to ask you, what do you call yourself and why do you say it? And and so it's easy to, then you can even, the people that are really interested, you can really set yourself apart by saying, and we focus on different things than most nurses have been taught. We focus on problems in a systems biology manner, and you can explain how that's a new way of thinking about things and looking at timelines, and people really get drawn into that. So I think it's depending on how interested a person is, you can really open up to what you do and how you do it, and they can then all of a sudden they connect the dots themselves, you know?
Yeah, as long as you relate it to their story.
Very true.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
true.
try to focus on taking the pressure off of them. Have you had, in that experience, did you feel like you weren't able to access the people you needed to? And how good we are at doing that, you know, sometimes there are buzzwords to get through the front desk.
Like what?
Just getting to the nurse of the doctor to describe what it is you need, as opposed to getting stuck with the front office manager.
All right, so you're talking about marketing to healthcare professionals as opposed to.
No, to usually it's family members that want help with their elder, and they don't know the system the way that we do, and we can weasel our way in to get what we need when it could take them hours and hours and hours. So we can streamline the process sometimes.
Okay. By listening, relating what we can do to their absolute area of need, and not being afraid to repeat.
Right.
I mean, let's look at everything that's going on in marketing today in the United States. How many people, how many commercials that you watch, and I'm terribly sorry you have to watch any, how many of them repeat messages? Do they use the same words or the same images? But basically they are repeating. They're offered to you. Kristen.
Yeah, you know what? This terrible commercial popped up in my head, the Gardasil commercial where they try to guilt the moms into
Oh yeah.
It's the worst. I watch it and
Yes.
I think, how terrible. We are mom shaming people into vaccinating their child right now. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
what popped up in my
So
head.
that's the
But that is
worst one.
marketing.
So with a kid that was like, you didn't know I was going to get cancer. Get me
Yes.
that vaccine.
Oh my God.
It's
And if we're
horrible.
talking about a sexually transmitted disease and we have to explain it to them when they're little and really considered small. So I think it's really difficult. I mean, vaccinations are pushed down your throat the minute your baby's born. If you don't, the first 24 hours, the poor thing is just vaccinated out the yin yang, just to
Yep.
get out the hospital. And if you say to them, you know what, I'd like to space these out, or I will come back, they look at you and shame you.
Yeah,
Even
well,
though
none of
you're
us
a
will get
respons-
shamed.
Yeah, even
No.
though you're a responsible person. So, yeah, even that's a way to show how a mom or anyone how you can be an advocate, you know, how to advocate for yourself even.
Well, adding that we're non-biased. I think that goes a long ways because you hear about advocates from the hospital, you hear about advocates from the insurance, you hear about, you know, that kind of stuff. But I think the fact that we are non-biased and independent completely changes the game of advocacy. And I like to always add that in with the patients because the patients a lot of times feel lost in the healthcare system and they're not sure who's advocating for them, if anybody.
Well, you raise a very interesting point, and that is that people today do not feel heard. They do not feel recognized. Nobody's listening until we show up and We are doing active listening and demonstrating how we can address and help them in their own need. Not some path that we go, we can do this, we can do that. It has to relate to them. Has to relate to them.
And so Karen, are we still talking about our target audience and how to find them and how to market to them?
Oh, we're getting there. We're not on it
yeah.
yet.
Well,
We're
that's
on the
okay.
beginning. I've got almost 2 hours left. We're
Well, good.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question based upon what we were just talking about, which is people do not feel heard. Let's say you're going shopping or you're watching TV or you're on social media, whatever, and you get a marketing message. What makes you buy?
If it's a product you need.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, if it's
targeting a
something you
pain
need.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the commercials, sometimes they could sell it for you. If there's like a, emotional connection and you're like, oh, look at that little puppy or something.
Where's that butterflies?
The butterfly.
There's a golden little puppy, or like the Kodak commercial, with the man holding his newborn baby. And then, this is the one that always got me. And then, 30 seconds down the road, then the girl's a woman and he's walking her down the aisle and he's got his Kodak camera or something. And you're like, I want to get some Kodak film. Not Fuji
Well,
film,
so
Kodak
what,
film.
though, you make a good point, and it's emotional targeting. What makes you buy?
Tom Selleck.
How is that reverse mortgage, Nan?
That's hilarious. Okay, what makes you buy?
Celebrity endorsement.
Yeah, the endorsement.
Endorsement, okay. What if it's a product you've never considered buying? What would make you buy it?
It's the message. It has a powerful message.
And what would that message do for you? What buttons would it have to push?
Like
To tell
things
you,
that
you
say
need this.
organic, things that say
Huh?
organic, things that say, they're healthy, things that are made in the USA, things like
Just-
that.
Powerful message and keywords, like she said, like, oh,
Okay.
I want organic.
And I think that's why everybody's different. So I think what they're trying to do is figure out what our pain point is. What are we lacking? Where do we have a problem? And they're trying to portray it as a solution. So like Debbie said, she's already in the market for organic stuff, right? Because that's her pain point, is that she's trying to get all this crap out of her diet. So when she hears organic, she perks up and she's like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this, right? So I think it's just trying to hit a need or a pain point that we all have. And kids, it's totally different because kids marketing is just flashy and
Yeah,
fast
right,
and-
colors.
yeah, they're
music.
actually using their developmental brain against them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You make good points. You make good points. But let me ask you another question. For people who have no medical background and they've got a serious issue, yeah, how are they going to make decisions? How are they going to even learn anything to make the most appropriate decisions?
Well, I know that if they're looking at a commercial where a so-called doctor is recommending something, then they'll say, oh, then I do
Yeah,
need that.
the doctor, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
9 out of 10 doctors think that we should get it.
But they don't throw in the proviso that 50% of doctors graduate in
They gone.
bottom half of their class.
I was gonna throw out if they were gone. Yeah.
How many times have you heard, oh, he's so wonderful. My neighbor's Denise has been going to him for 2 years and she says he's just marvelous. He spends time with her, all right? How many, given a little different version of that story, how many of you have heard stuff like that?
all the
You
time.
ask, how did they pick their doc? What do you mean? Well, I go where the insurance tells me, or what my neighbor tells me.
Yep.
They have no way of understanding the way into this maze. And that's where we come in.
Yeah.
He's nice. Right. So
That's
how
true.
can you be relevant? Let's talk about relevance for a minute. What does relevant mean?
So Karen, beware everyone that it can be the opposite as well. Nobody likes that place. There are too many infections over there. You should see my doctor. These are my in-laws. We don't like that place. I go, you don't have my problems. I need that place for a specific reason. So sometimes you're going to have to fight both sides of the same book.
What do you think about that, guys?
It's true.
I think one
It's true.
Yeah, I told a friend of ours that the doctor was a great surgeon, but he would be miserable post-op. And sure enough,
Yeah.
it's exactly how it went down. I tried to get him to order home health because he had his knee replaced, and he wouldn't get up because he was too constipated. And I said, please, for the love of God, send therapy in for like 2 weeks so I can get him pooping so he can.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Where's case management? Anyway, so being relevant, let's talk about that for a minute. What does being relevant with your potential client mean?
You need to be up to date on the current healthcare system.
Yeah,
And,
yep.
yeah, you
So
can't
that's
be-
one thing.
Meeting them right where they are. You have to start where they are. You can't start 6 floors above. They're not ready for that yet.
That's a very good point. In marketing, that's called being customer centric,
Mhm.
not you centric.
Right. It doesn't matter if I have the best option out there. If they're not ready, it's an education process to get them there.
Now, somebody just tuned in 1-661-609-7706. Who are you?
Debbie, it's Debbie.
Yep, that was Debbie.
All right,
I
thank
just,
you.
my video, my Zoom thing on my app thing wasn't working, so I logged in via phone number instead.
Okay, all
So
right.
glad to hear you.
How good are all of you at active listening? And tell me what you think that actually is. Not
I'm
what
good
the book
at it.
says. What does that mean to you?
When you listen to someone talk and then you pause and then you say, so what you're saying is, you're telling me that you're not happy with your current physician and you're looking elsewhere or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Right,
definitely,
see,
that's
But I'm-
definitely part of active listening. A very good point. Thanks, Paige.
I often ask them, am I hearing you right? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah.
So that they have a chance. I'm inviting them to say, no, I didn't mean it that way. Even if it came off that way, I meant it this way.
We do that all the time at work.
Yep.
As nurses,
Most of
right?
us are pretty good at that part.
Most
Karen, you were
patients-
talking about relevance.
yeah,
And I was thinking that the other thing about being relevant means being just sort of in it, all of a sudden, they need somebody. And you happen to be that relevant person to their problem. So that's another aspect.
but how
of
did they know that?
Very good. I mean, right. It's you just happen to
Marketing.
be there. Yes. In the right place at the right time. They have a problem and you have the answers. You have the right answers.
Yep, marketing.
Very good point. What we are doing in the initial part of this class is talking about concept, marketing concept. You are your best marketer. And now we've been discussing different ways and what's involved in that. We are going to get to specifics, but first it's necessary to understand What does marketing mean to you? How are you going to address that in your patient population or your potential patient? You know, it's important to understand the concept. Now, very often marketing, and I know we've mentioned this another time, marketing is not selling. Really? What's the difference?
Huh.
I feel like marketing is
Well,
positioning
marketing
yourself.
displaying your product. You're just putting your product on display or what you have to offer on display. You haven't actually sold it yet.
Okay. Kristen, what were you going to add?
I think marketing is positioning the sale, right? Whether that's who, what, when, where, how, that kind of stuff. It's kind of the pre-sale. It positions the sale, the future sale to come.
Okay. How is marketing different than selling?
Marketing, marketing is just effectively putting your service out there. Selling to me seems like more like you're selling a product.
Marketing is connecting. Marketing is communicating. Marketing is an open therapeutic communication. Selling is, here it is, pal, buy this. You know, it's absolutely true. We're not selling shoes here. We are opening the door to improved healthcare for these people. There's a very big difference. We're not selling anything. We are informing, we're educating, we are marketing. Do you see the difference? Does that make sense? Okay. A couple of things here I wanted to read you. People are craving connection. People are craving a relationship because nobody's doing it. You know, they're just a number, get in here, get out. But without a medical knowledge base, they have no way of judging what they're getting. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know whether it's good care or bad care or awful care. And so that's where obviously our marketing comes in. Marketing is communication, relevance, information, therapeutic relationship, even if they're not going to become a client. Because, and this is an important point, our inpatient advocates, everybody in here, we are forerunners, we are pioneers, we are trailblazers, yeah? And so how we communicate with, what are you laughing at? Somebody had a good giggle, you better share it with me. What is it? All right, it's a private joke, whatever. Where was I? Marketing is making yourself available in a way that they can understand and that address their particular needs. Hold on. Now, we are more emotionally demanding, aren't we, than previous generations who just wanted, yeah, right, give me those shoes. Why are we emotionally more demanding? Why? What is underlying this? Has anyone ever read Marshall McLuhan? Okay, you might want to check that one out, Marshall McLuhan. Why is our buying different than it was, say, 60 years ago?
So many more products, so many more choices.
More disposable income.
And a
Well,
million more
until
messages.
COVID.
And a million messages coming at us.
Yeah,
I mean,
more-
you open
yeah.
the internet and it's all over. You go to the TV,
Yep.
it's all over. It's just, there's a ton of input.
Absolutely. We are deluged with offers for this, that, and the other thing in your shoelaces. I mean, so what is going to be relevant to us? What does it have to address? And this is something, tell me again, who was 1661?
Debbie.
Debbie, that you addressed before.
Say that again.
in the midst of
What-
this major marketing through all the social media, yeah?
Mhm.
Why are we more and how are we more emotionally demanding of the marketing that hits our face than we were many years ago, decades ago?
Because there's so many more options, right? When you just had one option, everybody went with that. But with so many more options, we can be a little more demanding about everything.
So they have to push our buttons, the right buttons, yeah? And how do they do that?
Connection.
Oh, yeah, well, here's a perfect example, because I was a pacemaker and a defibrillator nurse. And so I went to a conference with a lot of different vendors. And, pacemakers went from being able to just do one thing to do a lot of different things. And he said that in America, Americans want the biggest and brightest and newest, like the Cadillac. And that's what the doctor would always say, oh, don't worry, I'm giving you the Cadillac of pacemakers, you know what I mean? And he said in Australia, it's completely different, because in America, they can be up to like $70,000, $80,000 just for the device. But he said in Australia, they just wait and get they don't worry about that. They wait and get the secondhand used or, the second model, the second year model, and they don't worry about that. So I thought that was one interesting thing. So it comes down to even to that. Americans want the best,
Yeah, but they don't even know how to determine what is best, do they?
Well, we know a Cadillac is good. So if he tells me I'm getting a cat, right? If I'm getting a Prius, or if I'm getting a Volvo, or, that's how
And
they.
that's good
equate it to
marketing.
it,
Okay. So they are reaching you with something you can relate to.
How are you?
Relevant.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I forgot to pick a room. Do you have 603 or 503 or any of those?
Can
Is
someone
somebody-
mute Suzanne?
Dan,
Oh, sorry.
mute Dan.
We could do it.
Okay.
There we go.
Anyway, I mentioned before that it is our responsibility to begin to establish the brand. We are the forerunners. We are the pioneer. Nobody ever heard of this until, when we started poking our head up 20 years ago. And so how you are relating, how you are understanding the concept, not the techniques, but the concept of marketing is going to enable you to do some branding. Let's talk about branding for a minute. And we're going to talk about it more next week, but I want to begin to address it a little bit now. What is branding and how are we going to go about that? What are some branded products? Let's talk about Nike. That's hardly the only thing.
Like Kleenex.
But
Everyone calls facial tissue Kleenex because they
Yeah.
get really good branding.
very good. What are some other brands?
Diapers, Pampers, they give me some Pampers, but there's so many different kinds out there.
Yeah, exactly. All
Apple.
right. Anybody else? Brands. And how did they get to be a brand anyway?
They were the first or the biggest.
Or the loudest? Or the most effective marketing team? Lots of focus groups and things like that. How do you feel about your role? I'm talking to all of you. Your role as part of the branding effort of RMPA.
It's exciting and scary.
It is scary. I mean, when I started this 20 years ago and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I mean, I knew it had to be done. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't even know the word brand. I just knew what had to be done. But now we're a lot further advanced. And we are branding. We are creating a path. We are creating a whole new model. And that model is being designed by you, Stacy, by you, Kathy, by you, Paige, by you, Kristen, by all of you.
I think it's a big responsibility if you think of it in that context, because how many people that you can get to kind of buy into this kind of service or to change healthcare. It's something that can be on a grassroots thing so dynamic and changing.
Well, let's turn that a little bit on its side. I agree with you. And Amy's here. What about if we look at it as an opportunity, a privilege? Hi, Amy.
That's how I see it. You know, we are gonna continue carrying the torch and pushing the IRMPA into new levels and new heights. I think it's exciting. I mean, just to hear all the IRPAs and everywhere that they've gone in healthcare, I mean, this is just the beginning. We are going to be a part of something huge. Looking back in 20 years, I mean, this is huge. I mean,
it's nursing.
Yeah.
Nursing, addressing the needs that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
That's big. I think it is a privilege. I think it is not only a responsibility, but an honor that we are able to do this. Okay. How do you know that you are relevant to the individual with whom you are communicating? How do you know? And you all know this. Come on, this is simple. You've all been at the bedside for a long time, and you know the answer to this. How do you know if you're being relevant?
If you're connecting with them in some way, if you feel that they're, you know, on the same page, so to speak, and you're helping them with whatever
And
they
how
have.
do you know
And by
that?
their reaction, by how they're reacting. Are they
They're engaged
receptive
with you?
of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Are they excited about what you're saying? You know, you can tell if they're receptive.
Yeah. Years ago, I mean, you know, when you come out of school and you're speaking the party line and you're learning how to teach and all of that, you're pretty much repeating what you've been taught. Yeah. But as you become much more experienced, you learn that what you, Paige, have to say is more important, or Stacy, or Amy. I call it speaking from here. Let me show you what I'm doing. Speaking from here. You're speaking the truth as you know it. And when you have made that connection, because they hear that, people know if you're right there relating to them, because you're speaking the truth. They know that, and they're going to respond to that. Shauna, Nan, haven't you found that?
Oh, totally. Oh, totally. You go in and the day and you first, it's your first time when you say, hi, my name is Nan, and I'm going to be the nurse taking care of you today. It's your initial way you say that and the tone in your voice. And you know, and are you one of those daytime nurses that comes in and just turns the lights on and says, hello, you know, and
here's your meds.
You know, yeah, and like, whoa, what the heck hit me, you know? Or are you, you know, it's so it all starts there. And hopefully, sorry about that, hopefully you have an objective way of measuring it, in that you have the appropriate care plan too in place, so that you can measure that over time the person's getting better on your watch. And
so you're talking about engaging with them immediately.
Yes.
Because
yes.
they will hear if you're speaking what to you is honest and true, because it's coming from yourself, not from what you read in a book. Okay,
Yep.
Shauna.
Yeah, similar to Nan, that, you know, once they start interacting back, then you have somewhere to go. And honoring and respecting them and moving forward with them. Trying to solve a problem that they have is always a good way to go, which is why Karen says, ask these questions. Once they have an issue that they could use support with, and you say, I think we can help you with that, then oftentimes they're bought in.
Yeah,
That's what I hear you saying, Shauna. It's really about their agenda,
Right.
not your agenda. It's what-
exactly.
Yep.
Yep, you
It's
tailor
their
it.
agenda.
You tailor your shift according to their needs. You're like, so we can help you with breastfeeding. So I'll make sure that I'll do everything I can to help your baby get a successful latch today. And we'll make sure lactation comes in to see you. And then I incorporate the partner's help. And you're always positive about it. Everything is about being positive and hopeful with the patient, because that makes them want to listen, and they trust you.
How are you going to know, speaking what you know is the truth, because it's coming from the center of you? How are you going to know? And this is a simple question. You guys already know all of this, but I got to ask the question. How do you know that you have connected, that you indeed are being relevant? How do you critique that?
They have your undivided attention. They make eye contact with you. They're silent when you talk. They nod their head. It's all about body language, and they listen to you and they follow your advice. I found that's how it is with me. If I have a patient that just got out of surgery, then I tell them how important it is to walk sooner, move sooner, and do all that sooner. Otherwise, this could happen, and then a lot of times they're like, oh, okay, well, when can I get up? When should I get up and walk? When should I move? It's great. Usually the vast majority of the people are like totally ahead of their recovery in that sense. If I tell them what to expect, and, in a very positive way, I tell them what would happen if they don't move, if they don't. And I try to get into like a little education in a layperson's, get into their body's education. Basically, I say, well, your gut will still be kind of sleepy if you don't move, then your gut will be a little sluggish and it'll be harder to eat. And I just kind of go, and usually they understand it. Usually they're like, okay,
Well,
well,
I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's all relevant and excellent. I would add one thing. Before you go teaching, ask them a question. What do you think about what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Engage them before you teach. I mean, whatever questions you ask them obviously are going to be relevant to whatever situation you're in. But one thing that I have learned, and we've all discussed, is first ask them a question. Whoa, this must be a little overwhelming. How are you feeling about this? And then you pull them in. You're listening. They know that you're listening. And then what you have to teach has more punch. Does that make sense? You all know all of this.
I do that all the time. Yeah, that. Yeah. Everybody has, my field is very, very, narrow field, the maternal child. So I usually say, well, your labor was pretty intense, wasn't it? How are you feeling? I always ask them how they feel, and they're always willing to tell me. Sometimes even recite their whole birth story.
Well, I'm going to skip ahead to something that we mentioned briefly earlier, and that is marketing materials. Fancy pens, blah, blah, blah. Would this be helpful? When would it be helpful? How do you gauge the response to your marketing materials, which costs you a lot of money? I'm going to tell you a little story. I started going, I figured out early on that health fairs were a really good idea. I need to get there. And so I spent $2,000. I cannot believe, all right. I didn't know what I was doing, guys. I wasn't in class. There were lovely bags that I had made. And I figured if I hand these out at the health fair, they'll put all their stuff in it, and then they'll take it home, and there I'll be. Nope, because everybody else was handing out bags too. So I was out a bunch of money. I also did little pads and pens. Obviously your business cards are an absolute necessity, and we can talk more about that. But what are your thoughts? Interestingly, a lot of RNPAs, before they really get with what marketing actually is, which is what we're talking about, will take out ads in the paper. You think, what do you think about that? Aside from the fact that it costs money.
I don't really know anybody who reads the paper still.
Right, yeah.
Well, even if they're reading it virtually, if you're on there, what use is that?
That's not where they're going to be when they're in a crisis needing support for a family member with a health issue. That's going to be the first thing they quit is.
Well, absolutely. Also, people don't know who we are. So here's a lovely ad. It's all been nicely done, says RN patient advocacy, and they go blank. It's like, I don't even know what that is. And they move on. It's a waste of money. So what do you think would not be a waste of money in terms of utilizing props in your marketing, if anything?
Ask a question, some sort of rhetorical general question, like maybe even on like a Google search, make sure that you're high on the Google search. And like, I don't even know what the question would be. Are you confused about your healthcare, or do you need help, or do you have a health crisis?
What I'm asking is, are any tools, sales tools, helpful in getting you started, other than your business cards?
For me, I'm putting together a web page and updating my LinkedIn page. I also got when I had my home healthcare business, I had one of the local newspapers do an article on me and my first client. So that was kind of cute. Didn't cost me anything.
Yeah, get to know the health reporter on your local paper. I did the same thing. And one day I had so many calls, I wished I had a staff of 12. I mean, they were all over me. Obviously, I couldn't handle it. But yeah, that's a really good idea. Get to know the health reporter on your local paper. Very good. Thanks, Kathy. What else might be helpful?
You connect with like local naturopaths or alternative medicine doctors, let them know what you're doing and see if they'll let you put business cards and like maybe a little flyer posted up somewhere in their office.
Very good.
Oh, a little flyer. Are we talking about a brochure? Now we're talking.
It could be a brochure or a single page.
Or a single page. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk right now about marketing healthcare professionals. That's a whole nother area that we will absolutely go in. But now we're talking about the general population. So possibly a brochure, certainly a business card, certainly a website. Learning how to bring that up on page 1 on Google. There are techniques for making that happen. It's called search engine optimization, or SEO, capital S, capital E, capital O, look it up. Okay, there are ways to do that. And there are companies who will charge you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to ensure that you have high ranks in the SEO. P.S. You can do it yourself. All right, this is something that we could address, how you make this happen. You can also learn about it if you look it up. How do you ensure SEO? And you can learn, and it won't cost you anything. It might be as simple as changing the message on the first page of your website. You know, anyway, that's just one idea.
Karen?
Yes.
Didn't you also mention, I remember talking to you before about contacting a local senior center and talking to a small group of seniors about how to maximize your health care or something like that, or how to do you said just to have like a topic of the day, how to do your own POA or something like that. And then encourage questions. And then you have your name out there already and they trust you because you're teaching them about something that's very important and simple. And then you could do follow-up little conferences.
So actually what you're talking about, if I hear you correctly, is something that Nan and Shauna and I are all very familiar with, and that's called networking. Let's talk about networking for a little bit, because instead of pens and very fancy doodahs that are not going to have the effect you want, because people do not know who we are yet, this is something that you can do. What do you think about that? Shauna, networking.
Definitely, there are networking groups. You can look at the SBA, you can look at Rotary, you can look at small businesses, women in business groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, but also local. There are usually meetup groups for young business owners or women in business.
Well, there are two questions here. Number one, how are you going to know who to network with? And PS, what's your message? So let's address the first part. How are you going to find out where your most effective marketing would be, marketing outreach in terms of networking? Do you all know what we mean by networking? If you've never done it, this might be a question.
An example would be what they have here in Tucson. They have an association of women business owners.
National Association of Women in Business, yes.
Yes, and so they meet and and you can be part of that group. So you get your message out to other women who own businesses. And so that way it's more word of mouth, but it also finds out you about their businesses and how they're doing their marketing and how they're meeting their demographic. And so it's very eye-opening, and it really puts you, and it also puts you in touch with people when you need somebody. So it helps with referrals. So I find that to be a really good group to go with.
Well, absolutely. And there's a national group called, write this down, capital letters, NAWB, NAWBO, National Association of Women Business Owners. And they're in all the major cities. They're certainly here in Tucson. But you're going to learn about can you think about what would be a good connection for learning about what organizations are in your town and then determining who would be a good contact for you and how you do that? How are you going to figure that out? Yes. Who's in your town? How are you going to learn that?
Chamber of Commerce.
Hey, ding, right on the first time. Yes, your Chamber of Commerce. Make friends and let them know who you are and what you're doing, and that you would like a list of business and health groups in town. Now, I will tell you this. Women make most of the healthcare decisions in this country at this time. So, I mean, if you can get into Rotary or anything like that, that's very nice. But they're not the ones who are making the choices. It's the women. How do you reach the women? And that's something to talk about with your chamber representative and say, tell me a little bit about what this community has in terms of leadership with women. And go with that. I mean, NAWBO is a big one and you'll find it. Would you get my phone and just tell Nancy I'm teaching? And I'll get, it's out there. Thanks. It's my sister. Excuse me. Misty's gonna get it. Anyway, so you're gonna find out who are the groups in town. Now, once you know who the groups are, then what? Who
Go
would
and
you contact in that group setting? Have you guys heard of program chairman? Chairwomen? Those who are responsible for putting together educational programming for their organization. You might want to learn who that person is. And there's usually a contact number. And then if you can speak with that individual, you be ready. All right, because it's got to be relevant. It's got to connect with them. You have to express something that is meaningful to them. And you do that by asking questions and active listening. Yeah. If you cannot, thanks, Misty. If you cannot get, her on the phone, you might want to learn how to write a really good marketing letter that would address their particular needs. And if you don't know what their needs are, ask. Networking is critical. And the way to get there is learning what's in your community and how you can fit in and what's relevant. Some of them are going to be very expensive and some are going to be free. Some may cost you $30 for a lunch. All right. And then you have to learn what is the need as expressed by the members of that organization. Now, I will tell you this also. At RNPA, we have developed a number of PowerPoints that address what we have learned from the population are areas of need where people don't know anything. So you may wish to explore that a little bit more. I will say that the most popular one is a program called Why and How to Be Your Own Health Advocate. That is a winner. And maybe at the residential, we can show part of that so you'll see what I'm talking about. You have to determine what their need is and how are you going to do that. And we've just been talking about how you're going to do that by being relevant, by addressing to their expressed needs. Anyway, so that will become your networking and will be the beginning of discovery on who is your demographic. What do I mean by demographic?
People you're marketing to.
What?
The people you're marketing
Like
to.
the target group you're looking to
Okay.
contact or reach.
So here's a question for you. You're starting your practice, and who are you going to market to? What is the demographic you're going after? And do you even know that yet? You will by the end of this program, I can guarantee. I will say that, and Nan and Sean, I'm sure that this probably was true for you too. You start out generalist, like anybody who walks in the door, come on. And you do what comes in the door. But there are many RNPAs around the country who have chosen to be a specialty practice. And you can do whatever you want. Does anybody have any idea about a specialty practice that you're thinking about now?
So somebody suggested to me that I focus on the gay community, since they tend to have healthcare issues fairly well financed and really don't want to stop running their business to deal with it.
And they're
Good.
often misunderstood.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Often misunderstood in the treatment room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a good idea. Paige, how about your demographic?
I don't know. I was kind of thinking about that, but maybe with maternal child or complicated, gynecological stuff. I don't know.
Okay, that's a very good answer. You don't know.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to say that.
So that's why we all begin with whatever walks in the door. You just got to get your feet wet. And as you learn to do this, as you make it part of you, where you don't even have to really think about it. It's just, you know what you're doing. That's when RNPAs typically go, well, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do that. But starting out in a generalist practice, so you learn what you're doing, it's typically a good idea. How's that sound, Kristen?
Good. I wanna create like an infomercial that says, have you ever been told that you're a difficult patient? Or,
Or you're
or
a zebra.
have you been to the doctor a bunch of times and they swear nothing's wrong with you, but you feel something's going on? Then call me. I feel like I get a lot of hits.
Yes, and a lot of difficult patients.
That's what I want. Those are the patients I want. I want the patients that healthcare has no options for. I want the difficult ones, which is why I got to set up my business correctly, because they can also be the ones that I feel like could come after you if things don't go well. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to do.
Well, that's fascinating. Go ahead.
I'm
Stacey,
looking at
what-
I'm looking at the vaccine injury market because I feel like we're going to have a lot of those.
Which is everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's amazing. So the vaccine injury market, just so long-term injury.
Short-term, long-term, mid-term. Right now, I have a guy I'm helping with anthrax vaccine injury.
Oh, God.
Mm.
He must be in the service, right?
He was. It's back when they were mandating it for the military.
Yeah. They get.
Then they
very-
found there were some substances in about a third of the vaccines that caused terrible nervous damage and all kinds of other things.
Oh, no.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. We're going to bring a bunch of books with us to the residential. What's her name? Hold on, just a minute. The one about vaccines. Oh. Ah, here it is. I knew we had it. There's a lady by the name of Sherry Tenpenny. I met her.
Yes, she's in the terrible dozen that the Biden administration is going after.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go into the politics of this, but I will tell you in her book, and if you get the updated edition, mine's kind of old, she goes over what is in these vaccines other than a flocculated or active, bacteria or virus. Belladonna, hydrocortisone, hydrogen succinate, potassium chloride, synthetic alpha tocopherol, which is in every flu shot. She goes over, polysorbate.
I don't like the sorbitol much, but.
No, she has addendum E. She goes over in several lists what's in everything. Let's see, here we go. Formaldehyde. Oh, this is a good one. Formaldehyde. It is in the teen pertussis. It is in Hep B. It's in the DTaP. It's in adult tetanus. It's in flu. It's in polio. It's in Japanese encephalitis vaccine, Hep B and A, and smallpox. Formalin, gentamicin sulfate, glycerin, porcine, gelatin. What if the poor person is allergic to pork? Yeah, well, haha. Nobody tells you what's in all this stuff. So I recommend that you find out what are some of the potentially toxic materials that are in the vaccines. Anyway, that's enough.
What's the name of that book?
Pardon?
What's the name of that book?
This one is called Saying No to Vaccines. A resource guide for all ages, Sherry Tenpenny.
She has a web page too. You can look a lot of stuff up there too.
Yeah, I am not going to go down and say vaccines are bad or vaccines are good. I think it's entirely dependent upon what's going on. When you got a newborn and they as Nan was saying, they come after you and they want to do 6 in one shot. Oh, God.
And the liver enzymes aren't even developed until age 1
Yes,
to
exactly.
detoxify their body.
Exactly. So I'm not sure, how did we get sidetracked into talking about vaccines?
Specialty.
Oh, because I was saying I was going to go for the vaccine injury market. You were
okay.
asking what group demographic we were going for.
Okay. Keep your eye on your marketing goals. One of the things that you're going to do for our next class on marketing is you're going to create your first marketing plan. And we are going to tell you exactly how to do it. It's going to be posted tonight on the cafe, and it'll be step 1, step 2, step 3, real simple. And you are going to create your first marketing plan. In the next class, we're going to talk about all of these first marketing plans. You need to understand. I'm doing an awful lot of talking this time, aren't I? Be your own critic. Nancy, Nancy, what does this mean? How are you going to be your own critic about marketing? How are you going to measure marketing success?
You mean Nancy, not Nan?
Nancy, yeah.
That's a good question. How am I going to be my own critic?
Yeah.
Do I think that the message appeals to me?
Well, you're going to want to learn how do you measure effectively. Because your marketing message is not going to be mine. Yeah, I'm going to measure success in my marketing message by what I'm going after. So perhaps it would be helpful for you to determine what are you going after. And then be able to evaluate, are you hitting that target or not? We're going to talk more about this, but you need to be open to learning how to be your own critique. Nancy, Nan Wyatt, Shauna, how has this worked for you? How do you know if you're hitting the target? How are you evaluating your own marketing?
If you get calls.
That's
right?
a very effective way.
if you get inquiries.
All right.
If you're able to drum up business, if you're able to even talk to a patient or could be a patient, so any person that seems to be interested in your message. And so that's what I would measure it by, because even if you have a Facebook page, unless you boost it and do all these things to it, it's really hard to even have a Facebook page. You have to, Shauna, you can probably talk about that better, because you have to be very proactive with it. You have to post on it very often. You have to know your audience that you're posting with. So that isn't even always the easy answer. So I think you're right on about making sure that you put your time and your money where it's going to be the most effective, and time being the first thing.
Shauna, thank
Right,
you,
so-
Nan. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
people are using Facebook and Instagram and other platforms that I don't know much about. The advice that I've always been given and I would recommend is pick one. Don't try and do 4. It's too many to master at once. Pick one that works well for you, where you're there regularly, and focus on that one.
What's the better one? Because I don't have social media at all, and I've been actually not looking forward to the fact of having to do that for our business. So what one? It's just because it's trash, and it really does less for me than it does for me. But I think it's important in this day and age. I mean, we're growing a company in today's world, in today's society. So what do you guys think is the best one?
Right now, I think Instagram, because you have your choices. What are you going to do? A TikTok video every day? Or, you know what I mean?
No.
Or, and even the same with Facebook. So that can get all muddled because it's been there. But Instagram seems to be just a post. You could post one little thing that's a fact, and you can just see how many followers, you know, how many people did that relate to. And so it doesn't have to be a big thing then, you know. It can be as simple as posting by giving certain facts about something you know a lot about. Like one thing I just posted about was that I said in the RNPA class that we're working on, we learned about the connectivity between the gut microbiome and and its neurological effect on your body. And so I just sort of posted a basic picture of that. And but I mean, it just reached barely any people, you know what I mean? I don't even know who it reached. So
Well, one thing along that line, thank you, Nan. I've been asked to do a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation to Greater National Advocates, which you will be learning much more about. I'm sure that we've mentioned it. Anyway, we will be providing contact hours for those of you who are interested through a group called Renegade. And I will send out the invitation. It'll be September 27th, and I don't remember what time. Do you remember what time it is on the 27th? The Brad thing we're doing.
Oh, you didn't tell me.
268.
Okay.
60.
Well, we'll send it out. So we'll send out the information. So what we're going to do is, and this is for advocates of every stripe, not just us, we're going to talk about systems biology and human microbiome, because most people have no freaking idea. They're out there being patient advocates and they don't know this stuff, really. So I've been asked to do a little synopsis thing. So we of course will send all of you the invitation. A lot of it will be just review for you, because we've spent hours and hours and hours and hours on the science. Anyway, so keeping your goals in mind, how do you establish marketing goals realistically?
Number of contacts that you get per week.
Okay.
Number of networking events that you do per week or per month.
Yes, that's a very good one. Networking, we'll go back to networking. We're going to have more conversations about this at the residential. Networking is critical to your success. Is all of this, we have addressed many things. This is just an intro to marketing. This is not exactly what you're going to do in your community. Is this beginning to kind of gel? What are the questions that occur to you that we're talking about?
Well, like what are some of the things that have worked best for you guys? Like, what is your top 3 marketing tips?
Well, the very first thing that I did, and then Nan and Shauna, you tell us what you did. When I began, I went to the Council on Aging in my county. Do you all know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to tell us, Paige?
It's an organization that is dedicated to resources for seniors, I believe, and they help connect seniors to just different organizations and establishments that help them, like Meals on Wheels, you know, so many different things.
Yeah, it is it is legally necessary for every county. Bye, Shauna. Shauna's going to have to leave us right now. It is federally mandated that every county have an area council on aging. So find out who the area council on aging is in your county and go talk to them. They were so interested and the door was wide open and they wanted to know and they wanted us to teach them. So that was one of the first things that I do. I joined National Association of Women Business Owners because they would let me get up there and talk about what we're doing. And I met all kinds of other women leaders in the business community in Tucson. That was very helpful. Those are just a couple of things that I did immediately that brought good results. Nan?
The same thing. Well, they have a thing out here also called the Stay at Home Society, and it is in the Fort Lowell neighborhood, and it was started by nurses from the University of Arizona, and it was really started back in the 80s, and it was all about encouraging people to be able to stay at home as they age and as instead of going into institutions, staying home as they die. So it started out as a simple thing of just having like where you could get a walker if you needed it, or if you were in the hospital, someone would do your gardening, or if you went to the grocery store, someone would take you grocery shopping. And they made it so that it was very clear they didn't burn out their volunteers either. It was really clear about all the boundaries, but they have an annual meeting. And I went to that and introduced myself and what my goals were and how I could be of assistance, and made sure that the person in charge, who's the one who delegates out to all the different volunteers, you know, of what my that I was available, and those seemed to be part of who my target audience was at the time.
And what was the name of
Excellent.
that?
Something else that I did that worked is I got familiar with, I went to the different hospitals and I set up an appointment with the director of nursing.
Deb.
I usually got 15 minutes, and that was very helpful because from there I went to case management. I bow in their general direction. They are asked to do the absolute insane amount of work. You know, they may have 40 people they're responsible for every day. And they love working with us because we give them information that helps them make better decisions because we know all about our clients. So if you can have a chance to have 20 minutes talking to them about how we can help them, that'll open a lot of doors.
Karen, I'm sorry, what, I didn't hear, what place did you say?
Case management. There's some noise going on. Somebody's.
Debbie, mute yourself. Can you mute yourself?
I muted. I did mute.
Okay. Case managers are your friend.
Just
They
like
need to know that we're their friend. All right,
Like
because
anywhere?
they can recommend you need to contact Paige Yahya, who is going to help you take care of everything that needs to be done when you leave the hospital. I think I told you guys about one of the nurses, the RNPAs here in this area, Kathleen Sloan, has started a practice where she marketed through case management and social workers, and she takes the most complex surgical cases who are being discharged ridiculously early. And she will go home with them for 24 hours. She'll set everything up with community resources. She'll make sure they understand everything that's going on. If there are treatments that they need to learn, she makes sure, not with a short video, but making certain they know how to do that. She'll get all the meds taken care of, make sure they understand that. That's a wide open field. She's the only one doing that as far as I know. So make friends with case management. Okay. Those are just some of the things that worked right away in establishing my RMTA in the very beginning.
That's a
What else?
very vulnerable time for people too, right? Post-discharge and right when they're getting home. So to have someone take over, set things up, you need a table here, you need to put all your meds over here, you need this, like this. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and if any of you are interested in pursuing this, you just need to let me know and I'll hook you up with Kathleen, who will tell you more, pardon me, about what she's doing and why she's doing it. Anyway, so what are some of the other things that you can think of or questions that you have about getting known out in the community?
Do any of your IRNPAs not use social media in building their business? Do you have to use social media?
Good question. There's one who does not. Jessica Kogel, whom you will meet during the residential virtually. She's not going to come join us physically, but she does not have a website. She doesn't use social media. She has learned, she has a tripartite practice. She takes some clients and they're usually referrals from past clients. I mean, she's been in the business for a long time, years. And she also works with the most effective home care agency and is teaching people there who private home care to what they need to look out for. And she's paid very well for that. And there's one other organization in town that she utilizes. So she's got 3 things going on and makes a good living and does not engage social media and does not have a web page. And Amy, if you want to talk to her, or if any of you want to talk to her, you just let me know and I'll hook you up. Any other questions?
I have a question. This is a little bit off topic, but did you get like a separate phone number, a business phone number for them to call? Or what do you suggest with how they get a hold of you? Because phone calls are very effective, but I don't want them calling my personal cell phone.
Well, that's a very good question. Anybody have an answer? Yeah, Kathy.
Another number.
I got a Google Voice number, and so it's on my phone and it rings to my phone, but it's a separate phone number because I don't want to be on call 24/7, 365.
Okay. So you're still using your physical cell phone.
Correct.
But there's another phone number that's attached and you may have a different ringer and you'll know when they're calling it. Oh.
Yeah, it tells me whether it's Google Voice or whether it's my regular phone when the call comes through.
Okay.
That's a really good question, though. In the very beginning, now we're talking 20 years ago, right? Before there was a Google Voice or a Google phone. I started with a business number. And, I had a good message on there because I was not always around to get the calls. But then it became necessary. When did we hook up the Google phone thing? Was it a year ago? Something like that?
Not quite a year ago, I don't think.
It just become outdated because, I don't need to have a home phone, right? I have a cell phone and it is now possible, as Kathy found out. Kathy, tell us how you did that.
You just type in Google Voice into the search engine and then you tell it you want a phone number and they'll give you some to pick from. So you can go, ooh, I like that one. And then it's yours and it's free until you want certain things on it. But I've had a Google Voice number now for 1.5 years and it cost me nothing. As I grow and get bigger, I may have to pay something for it.
Well, that's exactly what we did too. Ours is 800-3663 because you do get a chance to pick a number. And so we were going for the simplest one. And when it's on my phone, it'll come up 800-3663. And I know, oh, that's a Google Voice. So, I either answer or not. Typically, I let them leave a message and then I send it to Misty. Would you please answer that part? Anyway, so does that answer your question about using social media and about the phone situation? Any other, Stacy, any other questions that occur to you as far as the concept of market? What, Kathy? What? Kathy, what?
Well, yeah, I had to unmute. What are you using for keywords? Because I honestly have no idea what somebody is going to put into the search bar to look for me.
Well, let me tell you something, and this would be entirely up to you. When I started, I wanted to make certain that I didn't have any more competition than I could handle, because we wanted to set it up that we are who we are and you can't compete with us. So at one point, I think we had 50 URLs. What are we down to now? Like 35, something like that. And I would make that list available to you if any of you want to use those URLs. Search terms, it's a very good question. Patient advocate, medical misdiagnosis, medical error, medical education, health literacy, those are just some of the things right off the top of my head. Somebody else talk about what it would occur to you for search terms.
Nursing advice.
Okay. Suzanne, what do you think?
I can't hear you.
I know,
Okay.
chickens,
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. What is that?
that must be
Search
Debbie.
terms. Search
Wait.
terms.
Sorry, let me say there are chickens, sorry.
Yeah, there are chickens.
My
What's
bad.
going on?
I'm feeding the chickens. Sorry, I thought I was on mute. Sorry.
Okay, so we're talking about what are good search terms. And before you pick out your company's URL, you should take a look at what RNPA has been protecting for 20 years. Okay, go ahead. Search terms, Suzanne.
Like support, like
Medical support.
yeah, like I'm trying to think of like helping something that's gained, like for you to help your family member, like that's it.
Okay. Family medical support, something
Yeah.
like that. Just get creative, man. You wouldn't believe the stuff that we throw in there. And you just have to see what works.
Right.
Just be
Advice for
creative.
medical problems.
Yeah. Advice on medical problems, a good one. Kristen, what do you think? I know that you don't want to do this, but.
No, I love being here. Yeah, I think healthcare crisis. I mean, I'm trying to think of people that are desperate. I mean, they're putting in all kinds of stuff like healthcare needs. How do I find someone to help me with my diabetes? I mean, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, very good.
Karen,
Anybody else?
when you're talking about URLs, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that you are saving a URL so that someone else doesn't take that? Or what do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Every year I pay a certain amount, or RNPA, not me personally, RNPA pays, it's usually GoDaddy, for protecting certain, a URL is your identification online. We've got patientadvocates.com, we've got rnpatientadvocates.com, we've got Heal Inc., we've got, I mean, how many websites do we have?
I don't know what the list is right now.
Anyway, but from the very beginning, I wanted to protect the entity of independent RN patient advocacy. So that's why I nailed down as many URLs as I could to protect it and to make it available to RNPAs. Hey, here, you could use this. I mean, there's some really good ones in there. Health Advocate Guides is one of them. I mean, there's .com, there's .biz, there's .whatever. Anyway, so anybody who wants to see that list, just let me know and we'll get it out
That's
to you.
interesting.
Anything else on search terms?
How about something to do with alternative treatments?
Ah, very good. Alternative treatments, breast cancer. Alternative treatments, you know, or just integrative medicine.
Mhm.
Integrative oncology.
Integrative oncology,
What do they call it? Late life care, like when you're.
late life care. Misty? Yeah. You can do anything. It's going to work or it's not going to work. Just get creative. Just get creative. Okay. We're going to talk for a minute. We've got about a half an hour left about your market niche. What, for heaven's sakes, is a marketing niche? Go ahead. You already know the answer. Just spit it out.
It's a specific group that you want to market to. Like I'm looking at women age 45 to 65 dealing with parents and kids.
All right, that's a beautiful market niche. Anybody else? You're going to be taught how to identify the market niche for next week's class. It's part of developing your marketing plan. Anybody else?
I want to help oncology patients,
Yeah.
adult oncology patients.
Okay. All right, so that's going to be your marketing niche.
I want to help
Anybody else?
people who the healthcare system says there's nothing we can do for you. There's nothing else, whether that's a chronic disorder or end of life situation.
So possibly that would be mystery illness.
Yeah, it could be, or like, well, I mean, like gastroparesis is technically incurable. And it's not necessarily a mystery. Of course, it's a mystery to them how it functions, but couldn't we say that about a lot of illnesses? But yeah, I guess like people who, you know, I think there's just a point where you get turned away. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's gotta be, you must be depressed. You're gonna have this the rest of your life. You have an autoimmune disorder. There's nothing you can do. You have to take these meds. So basically people that are like, I believe there's gotta be something else that I could do.
Well, that's really a good one. And you're going to meet a lot of people who fit into that. I had a patient who just recently died. I told you about him. The success story on stage for non-small cell lung. And it must be 5 years ago or 4 years ago. No sooner than that, his mainstream onc looked at him and said, there's absolutely nothing more we can do for you. I'm done. Which was utter nonsense. But this kind of stuff goes on all the time. So if you're heading for that as a market niche, I'd love to work with you on that because that happens all the time.
Perfect.
They don't know what to do with you, you know, other than give you this pill or that pill. Nobody's talking about what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Except us.
Or options that are not FDA approved. Hey, this isn't FDA approved, but it's got a lot of science behind it. It's got a lot of research. Hey, guess what they're doing in Germany? They got this herbal treatment that's working really good for gastroparesis over there. Last time I checked, gastroparesis is the same in all countries.
Well,
you bring up a beautiful point. Look global, look global.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good point.
What, Kristen, what brought you to look at gastroparesis?
Well, that's what brought me here is just I've helped several people cure things that are said to be incurable. And so it's my passion now. I feel like I did it for myself with Hashimoto's. And then, you know, I've helped a little girl with Tourette's, and my daughter had gastroparesis, and I took in a child. I have custody of a child. And when I got her, she was on all these meds and had all these diagnoses. And I kind of like had to regroup and re-look and evaluate her entire healthcare system that she had been in for 10 years. Now she's off meds. She's grown 3 inches. She's not malnourished. She's eating healthy. She's getting good grades. She's happy. She's doing so good. I mean, I remember after I had her for a year, her teacher said, I've never seen her happy. She's happy. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a teacher. Shouldn't you have mentioned that to someone? Or, there's just like so many people that fail these. Well, she's a child, so she didn't have a choice, but even that fail us as an adults. Everyone's so free to give their opinion, but nobody's really doing the deep dive necessary. And it goes back to what Karen said is active listening, non-bias requires active listening. I can't come in with anything. I have to go empty and vulnerable and sit and put myself in their problem, in order to help them. So I just like doing that.
That's outstanding. And that's
really
RNPA,
is.
that's RNPA thinking.
It really is. And observation and opinion are 2 different things. Observations lead you to opinions. And so here's this teacher, like you said, why was she afraid to doubt her observation, which therefore gave her an opinion? Why was she doubting herself and mentioning it to someone?
Yeah.
Well, I applaud you, Kristen. That truly.
It's my path. It's my path. We all have one on here. So
yeah, of course we do. Of course we do.
That's great.
Okay, so let me read you something. This was written by a very successful national marketer. The RNPA market niche includes, but is not limited to, people or institutions with the following needs or concerns. 1, people with a current or pending healthcare challenge. 2, families with concern for a loved one in an institution not close to the family. And there's an RNPA in San Diego who has built a national practice doing just that successfully. Anybody want to talk to her, let me know. People with multiple physicians who don't talk to each other. They really need our help. Yeah. People who are unhappy with the medical care they are receiving and they're looking for options. People who want to be educated about medications, supplements, and nutrition. Physicians who want to embrace a holistic approach to medical care, and they probably don't even know what the word means because it means 100 different things. Corporations, institutions, and senior communities who want to provide enhanced healthcare education and services. And there is a wide open door that you can take advantage of. So the market niche includes all of these things, and you can get specific on any of them. What do you think about market niche? Is that making sense? In putting together your first marketing plan, you are going to be led step by step into understanding the demographic in your own community, into establishing what your market niche is in your community, and what are you going to do to reach them, and how are you going to measure the success of that. Okay. You're going to want to focus on what's interesting to you. And you should be learning every single day. And RNPA learns every single day. That's how you keep things fresh. People always say, Karen, you know so much. Well, how do you think that happened? I wasn't born with it. It's because I educate myself every single day. And that's what your practice. Many of you already do that, don't you? Sally.
Yes, we do that every day.
Oh, go ahead.
So I work in cardiac rehab and I also do home health. So constantly being educated about different things, especially in home health, the different things that we have to different services we have to provide for patients, and, just constantly learning about different things and ways different things affect people.
And I bet that everybody in this class does something like this every single day. That's our NPAs. And we do look globally, Kristen, just like you did. Now, you're going to focus on those areas that best match your own expertise and educational background. How about your financial goals? Would that be a part of your marketing? Okay, your people, several of you are shaking your head. Talk.
Well, you figure out how much you want to net or gross a year, and then you have to back into what you have to do to accomplish that. And then you have to back into how many, networking meetings do I need to go to? How many talks do I need to give? How many emails do I need to send out? Whatever it is, in order to hit your financial goals.
Okay, anybody else? Financial goals?
What if you don't know, like what the potentials are? You said you can set an arbitrary financial goal for yourself, but how do you know what you could possibly achieve? Do you just put a number out there?
You're going to have, when is Rick talking to us? It's before the panels, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to be speaking to a very bright fellow. And that's a good question to ask him. How do I establish financial goals? You're going to have to look at what your daily costs are. Yeah. How much are utilities? I would suggest that you all start with a home office, because you're going to meet patients in their home or in the community or virtually during COVID. Right. So you're not going to need to be paying rent on a nice big office. Yeah.
How do you figure out how much to charge?
Ooh,
a good question.
Thank you for bringing that up. Somebody else besides me.
Didn't you say a minimum of $100 an hour starting?
Well, I started at 50, but that was 20 years ago and I didn't know what I was doing. So it seemed reasonable to only charge $50 an hour. But now, yeah, that's the opener, 100.
Wow.
It
And then
depends on your demographic, doesn't it?
Yeah. Then how do you figure out what to charge for in that hour? Like researching on the internet, what their issue is and finding solutions, that is considered what you're charging them.
Chargeable, yes.
And then also if you're going to do like, say a video conference with their doctor and or make a phone call for them, like, is that all included?
Yes, that's all chargeable.
Kind of keep track of how much time it takes you, or do you have like a set limit for, like, say a phone call or going to an appointment with you? Or
no, there's no limit. Excuse me, Nan, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Karen, you have a rule that you always get paid before you do the work. I mean, you get a down payment, and that's how you do it. You don't bill afterwards.
No, you're going to get a down payment, and that means anywhere between $600 and $2,000 paid down to get you started.
Wow.
And there are people, RMPAs, who start at 125. That's in Oregon and in parts of California. There's an RMPA, Nan Weatherhorn, down in the very wealthy retirement community in Miami, and she's getting $250 an hour, and they're paying it. There is another one, Donna Hartelius, who is up in Montana, and she is getting $250 an hour. So there's a big spread. The best way to begin to put a handle on this for yourself is, what are you worth?
You're worth.
Nurses are used to being, somebody else establishes our worth and pays us X dollars. We got to move our head away from that model. What are you worth?
Karen, is this something that you kind of go over when you're initially having your initial consult about like how much things can cost and how much they're willing to spend and how much you'll be able to
Yes.
work within that budget?
This is part of what's called screening. And there's a whole process, and that's going to be one of the things that we address and have you practice during the residential.
Yeah, I'm really bad at selling things and valuing things. My husband will tell you like that is the worst. I'm like, something I try to sell for $50. I'm like, oh, just give me 30. So this is going to be a big struggle for me. I just feel like it's really hard.
But tell us a little bit about yourself, Stacy. How many years you've been an RN? What's your background? Just a little bit. Give me a minute.
I've been a nurse since '97. I've worked in primarily pediatrics, and I've done critical care for like 20 of those years and critical care transport for like 16 or 17 of those years.
All right,
So
somebody
I know a lot about really sick kids. That's about it.
You've dealt with really sick kids. Somebody take a shot. What is Stacy's time worth?
It sounds to me like Stacy really knows her, like she'd be able to really show if a child is acutely changing. Like it sounds like you would really know if a child needed more than just a nurse visit on the phone or a doctor visit. It sounds like you'd be able to. So it sounds like to me you didn't get paid to be an intensive care nurse in the hospital. You could have stayed out on the floor and gotten paid the same amount of money, really, remember? And even for your flight or your dinner, I'm not sure if you even got a differential for that. So you have to think in different terms, like Karen said.
Yeah.
And break it down.
Let's put the shoe on the other foot. I'm a mother with a very sick kid. I mean, ICU sick. It might be something chronic, it might be something acute, whatever. Who's there to help me when I go home?
Nobody.
Yes. And what would that be worth to me?
Right.
As a frantic mother, what would that be worth? What would it be worth to you?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really put a price tag on having somebody that can help you through that. And I feel like they send kids home with so much like crazy stuff that they expect parents to do and know, and it's just amazing. So I feel like there's definitely a market for it.
Okay. I think it's a very valuable market. I mean, I don't know about your demographic, but as far as your worth per hour, I wouldn't start anywhere lower than $125 an hour. I will say though, no matter what you decide to start with, when you are doing background research, I would cut that in half until you get good at it. Remember, we have talked about how you look things up, right? We've had a lot of talk about where you go for information, data mining. Yeah. You're not going to be, unless you've been doing it for years, you're not going to be that good at it. You're going to have to take time. And so what I determined, because I didn't know either, what I determined is if I spent 10 hours, I would charge for 5. Until I went doodly doodly do, and I'm really fast, I'm good. I charge for every single minute. I would recommend that you consider that. And you may also want to throw in something freebie now and then. You know, you may want to say, I had an opportunity to speak with your physician. There's no charge for that call. Even if that's only worth $50 or $75, depending on the length of the call, you have no idea how wonderful that makes you sound.
And then you use that, we talked about it last class, and it was, I forgot who mentioned it, how to keep track of all this stuff, all the phone calls you make, all the research. And what do you use? What do you recommend?
Well, I came up with a system that works for me. But in the last year, I've had the opportunity to learn a great deal about a program designed by a nurse called MyJuna. And we will have MyJuna, if possible, during the residential, if she's available. If not, it'll be a follow-up. She has created an entire program that tracks everything. So all of your information, all your charts, everything is in one location. You need to talk to her. I mean, because what I do works for me, but I think what she's got is far more advanced than what I was able to put together. Because there was no MyJuna when I started.
The other program that I've looked at besides MyJuna is CareTree. And CareTree, I actually like a little bit better, but I looked at them both like 4 months ago, so it's been a while.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I liked about MyJuna is it was written and designed by an experienced clinical RN who knows what we have to track and how to do it best. I don't know about CareTree. It might be absolutely wonderful. I just don't know. I've never looked at it. Okay, so your financial, all right. Let's talk about targeting. We've already discussed what are the demographics. We've discussed how you're going to network and how do you do that kind of thing. How do you do effective targeting and what does that mean? And it all has to do with what we've already been talking about today. What is targeting?
I think it's, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's finding out where your patient is, what they do, what they read, what grocery store they go, where are they, what do they watch on TV, just trying to put yourself so that you can get that marketing information out to those places to pull that particular demographic in.
Absolutely. Again, here's just a short list from that marketing guru that has written some of this material. Knowing as much as you can about your targeted niche, market niche, is the best way to effectively communicate. So you're going to have to do some digging. You're going to have to talk to people. You can't just make it up. You have to get out there and start talking to people. And you have to understand the financial constraints or non-constraints or limitations of your target niche. Now, if you live in a rural area and we're talking farmers who's, you know, they go like this in terms of income, depending upon the weather, etc. You may want to charge less. They're not going to be able to afford as much. So there are different ways to address this. How about if they can't pay what you're actually worth? How about putting together 2 or 3 whose combined income for you would bring it to what you want, and you could teach 2 or 3 at the same time. Let's say in your targeted niche, there are a lot of people with congestive failure or cardiac issues. A good way to discover this is talking to priests and pastors who know a lot about their population. And you could possibly work with 2 or 3 online until COVID allows, and do some teaching. Everybody would pay you $50. And if you're working with 3, that's $150 an hour. There are different approaches. There are different ways to deal with this. The limitations of your target niche. Let's say somebody doesn't have very much money, but they're in a pickle. What can you do for them? Turn on your right brain here.
Well, I mean, I think we can, if they don't have the finances, one of the things we can do is be a consultant to where we're actually having them do some of the research and point them in the right direction and kind of give them that idea of where they should go, but have them do some of the legwork.
That's one way. It's a good idea.
Or
Anybody
it's kind of
else?
like a Tupperware part. It's kind of like a Tupperware party where the person who puts on the party gets a discount, and everybody else they bring in pays you the full rate.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Referral credits, is that what you're talking about?
No, no. One of the things that worked very well for us here at RMPA, and I know Nan, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody can't afford you full tilt boogie. You could find out what their need is and send out a little questionnaire. So they tell you exactly where the problem areas are. And you do some work and and you're on the phone with them and another person, hopefully always another person. So you got two sets of ears listening to you. And it'll be a 4-hour service and you can charge $250 or $300 or whatever. That way you have put together as much valuable information in the amount of time and money that they can afford. I've done that many, many times. I mean, somebody hasn't got the money, but they need what we can do. Well, here's one way we can do it.
Why did you say they should always have someone with them? Just because it's hard to hear everything, just so that they have their own person?
Somebody
Yeah.
else, Nan,
Okay.
take that. I can't hear you, you're muted.
You're talking about the fact that someone always needs to be there in terms of another family member.
Well, it's always helpful if two sets of ears are hearing what you've got to say, because the one who's actually got the problem may be emotionally so involved that they're not going to be remembering what you said 5 minutes from now. But if you have somebody else who does not have the medical issue, they're going to remember more, or they may want to record it. That's perfectly fine as well. Always have more than one set of ears listening.
That really makes sense.
Do
What do you guys, huh?
Do IRMPAs ever set up GoFundMe pages for their clients? Or is that something that you encourage your clients to do, or a family member?
I know it's time.
I never did that.
I think I would not do that. Simply because setting up a GoFundMe page takes a bit of work. And if they want to do it, certainly that would be good. I don't know if any of my patients have done that. I know that I have never volunteered to set up a GoFundMe for my clients.
Sounds like something a family member would do.
Yeah, a family member might do that. Identify the main health concerns of your market niche. And you're gonna, we're talking demographics, we're talking about identifying in your community what your market niche is and what are the major health concerns. What if you're working with people in assisted living? Yeah. Or people that, like Nan said, are stay at home, but they really need help. Do you think that who would you talk to find out what are the main health concerns of your market niche? Who are you going to talk to?
Sometimes your counties have those healthcare demographics.
Ah, the public health department. That's very good. Anybody else? Social? Would social workers have a little bit of a handle on this also? How about case management? Who sees everything? Truly, I do bow in their general direction. They are magicians. I don't know how they manage to get everything done. So we're going to combine networking, identification of market niche and demographics. What is your referral base? What, if any, marketing tools are you going to pay for? So we've pretty much gone the whole thing at 6 o'clock Pacific time now. We've gone into a lot of different directions on purpose. Marketing is a very big topic. And if we're going to market our services, it is a good idea to begin to understand what marketing means to you. What are the elements? What applies to you? How are we going to use this information? Everything that we've been talking about today, you're going to apply when you are creating your first marketing plan. And I suggest you do this in group and create one marketing plan within the group. And if you have to make stuff up, make it up. But you need to learn how to do this. Has today, we've covered many areas. It's a big discussion. Has it been making sense? Is it beginning, are you beginning to get some idea about marketing?
Mhm.
Oh, obviously it's been overwhelmingly.
Yes.
Has it been helpful? Is it making sense? And if not, please tell me.
It's been helpful. Yes,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Okay, it's a very big topic. People go to college for 4 years to learn how to do this. You don't need to do that because we're being very specific. Any questions, concerns, thoughts before we say goodnight?
Do you guys have a sample of like a marketing plan that we could look at? Because I don't even know like how it should look or.
That's a really good question. Why don't you take a look at the material that will be posted tonight on the cafe to see what is involved.
Okay. I read that material from earlier, but I just need like, can't like picture what it's gonna look like, I guess.
Okay. I would rather not post a marketing plan, only because I want you to get in there and feel it out for yourself. And if you still want guidance after that, then certainly we can do that.
Is there a difference between a marketing plan and a business plan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I will tell you, we're going to have, after the next program, after the next class, next Tuesday, the next 2 weeks are going to be on setting up your business, part of which is marketing. And the one who's going to be talking to you about this is a fellow from SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives. Do you all have any of you heard of that? No? Yes? Okay. I wanted it to be somebody from the Small Business Association. However, I was not able to get them to talk to me locally, and SBDC, small business, that's created by SBA, and they help you set up your business through your community colleges. Apparently, COVID has placed tremendous stress on them, so they're not able to do what I've asked them to do in the past. So I called SBA in Washington, DC, and I said, hey, come on, we need some help. And she said, well, you're not going to get it locally unless you go to SCORE. And so I asked this person and that person and did a bunch of looking. And I found this fellow who is SCORE locally, and he has designed with other SCORE members a ladder. I think he said it was, I don't know, 8 or 10 steps. This is what you do. These are your considerations when you're setting up your business, and you're going to have 4 hours with this guy. Okay. 2 class sections, and a lot of your questions that you have will be relative to what he is going to teach as well. The whole idea, and then that's going to be followed with this financial guru person, Rick Darvis, who will be answering a lot of your financial questions. The whole idea is we can't grant you an MBA. I don't have an MBA, but we can teach you what you need to know to get started. that's process, that's science, that's finance, that's business, that's marketing, that's networking, all of that. And then the last two sections before we take, what is it, 2 weeks before the residential? Will be 2 panels. One panel will be experienced RNPAs who are going to talk about setting up their own business. And it's open season, man. Ask them everything. All right. And the next panel will be on what it's like to be in business as an RNPA, working with clients. Ask them all about it. These are very knowledgeable, experienced RNPAs, and they'll answer all your questions. And then we get into the residential, where everything comes together. Now, what I would like to ask is if you guys, did I already mention this to them about Thursday?
You did at the beginning,
Yeah.
some said they could make it.
Everyone at La Posada, where the residential is vaccinated. There's a question as far as requiring vaccination to come to the residential. And this is something that we need to discuss. I don't know how many of you are vaccinated or unvaccinated. Your decision is your decision. It's not mine. But talking to the health department and looking legally at what's going on here in Pima County, which is where we are, there are different things to consider. And I feel strongly that this should be something that we discuss. All right. So what I would like to do is have maybe 20 minutes, tops 30 minutes on a Zoom on Thursday afternoon. I mentioned earlier. What do you think about this idea?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know how many of you are vaccinated. I will tell you this. I will have had my booster by then. I cannot stand up with a mask on and blab for the day. And I don't think Nan can do it, or Shauna or Shana. The reason we made the residential for November instead of the end of September, which is when we've always done it before, is because I was hoping that COVID will have given us enough breathing space that we could do this safely. Well, then Delta stepped in. So I think this is something that we need to discuss. I need to know what you think, let's talk about it. What do you think? Would that be something that you would be open to talking for a little bit about on Thursday afternoon?
Sure.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about it if there's going to be some sort of, rules about that.
Yeah, and they're not going to be rules that RNPA makes up. This is going to be what is state law, what is county law, what the public health department is saying. It's been turned into a political, and I'm not going to talk about the politics. We're talking public health here, and there are a lot of different approaches. So again, I don't want to get into the politics of it.
So it's scheduled for 1:30 our time, and I've already sent out the link.
Oh, okay, 1:30 Pacific time on Thursday. And it'll be about a half an hour. Come prepared with your questions, and I will tell you what we've investigated thus far. And, you guys are going to need to make your reservations. By October 1, we have to have this completely set up for La Posada to give us everything that we've negotiated, thanks to Nan, who is our main negotiator.
And what are
Anyway.
the cases like there? Do you guys have a lot of COVID in Tucson?
Yes.
Yeah. Like no hospital beds like here in Oregon?
Oh, no, it's not
It's
as
not as
bad.
bad as that.
Yeah.
The New York Times tracks every county in the United States and every day. And so I subscribe to that paper, and I get to see every single day the counties where my family is, Pima County where we are, and they are looking primarily at how many cases per 100,000, not deaths, cases per 100,000. We used to be at 11. We went as high as 28 or 29. We are now at 26 in this county. It's sizable. Florida.
And what's the vaccination rate?
The
in that county?
vaccination rate, you can also learn that from the New York Times app. Most people 60 and older, what is it, 75% of them are fully vaccinated. The younger ones, not as much. The older ones stepped right up. And so we don't have the big deaths in our senior population here. One thing that is concerning is that younger people are 30 to 40, 25 to 40, more of them are becoming ill because they're not vaccinated and they're not wearing masks.
We're a college town and 48,000 students just started class. So there may be an influx of more cases coming our way.
Because it's been politicized. This is a public health issue. This is not a political issue. Anyway, so I would not say we're in a serious danger zone, but with 48,000 students arriving this week who are coming from all over, well, I think it's an issue. So we stand ready to answer all your questions and see what your concerns are, and we'll tell you what we've learned. And
Yeah.
let's make some choices.
And right now, masks are not mandatory. But they're not. You can go in the Whole Foods and you can go wherever you want without a mask. It just says if you're vaccinated still, whereas right now I'm in Reno, Nevada, and every store you have to have a mask. It doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not.
Well, I just think it's good sense. Delta is sneaky. And people who are vaccinated are still having breakthrough. So I think, I go out of the house, I got a mask on. For me, it just makes sense. I've got too much going on in my life. I don't have time to get sick.
What about people that have already had COVID and have good antibodies?
Well, that's a very good question. My sister had COVID a year ago and she's still got some long-term effects. She went ahead and had the one shot J&J. And so her antibodies are stronger. If you've already had COVID, that certainly puts you in a different category. You're going to have active antibodies.
But there's still not a good test to measure those antibodies.
No,
really.
there's not.
Well,
So
the
they're a
PCR
mess.
test to test if you have COVID isn't very good either.
No.
Well, there are many different types of testing. I would ask your public health department what they would recommend in terms of testing. I know that I will be testing before I show up at the residential. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be a problem, but let's find out for real. I don't want to be a messenger of, could you get Nancy? Thanks. Anyway, so let's talk about it at 1:30 on Thursday. Short Zoom. Misty's already sent it out. Okay, let's put the issue on the table because I think it's a relevant issue. And I don't want to just dictate what it's going to be. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good
Nan,
night.
would you stay on for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll see you Thursday.